Concacaf Nations League Quarterfinals. I still have my hair. I'm not bald. Julian, you got a hat on. You're not bald. Listen, guys.
Dude, I was rooting for it. Dude,
listen, y'all were rooting for it. I look at the comment, Julian, you sent me the screenshot, and I just see all this shit about that Panamanian kid better shave his head. He better be bald next weekend, this and that. I'm just like, listen, dude, I don't even know. But Julian, first thoughts, did Suriname, did they impress you? Did they not impress you? Me personally, I can't lie. They parked the bus. Oh, shit, they parked the whole fucking train. But what were you expecting that? What did you think?
Well, what kind of threw me off was that I feel like their game plan for leg one and leg two should have been reversed. It seemed like leg one, they didn't even try. Like it was just like 10-man back line, hold them off as long as we can. And, you know, they did relatively successful job. They only left Suriname 1-0. But I would have liked to see them go press a little bit more because at the end of the day, you are at home. You need to get a result. It's easier for you to get like something at home and then hold. Because I'm not against the game plan in leg two. Because in leg two, you actually kind of saw them open it up more. I don't know if you did because they kind of had to. They had to chase the game. And there were some good moments with Geraldo Becker. He made a couple shots where he was had a couple opportunities. To be honest, he seemed to be the only one that was really able to create anything or kind of get anything going for them. But there was some moments throughout the game where you look at it as like, man, they should have put some of those away. It was actually a little bit closer in that first half than what the scoreline shows. I would have liked to see that more at home, and I'm sure the Suriname fans would have too, to see them kind of go after a little bit more, have the crowd rally behind you instead of just kind of doing what they did in that first. Like it just didn't really make sense to me. I feel like that's this move you do when you're like you got that 1-0 lead or maybe even that draw. Like I think and maybe that's what they're going for. They're going for like a 0-0, 180 minutes, and then we're going to take it to a shootout and see what happens there. But I don't know. Like, look, as a Costa Rican fan, like that's something that I've seen a lot in watching that, and you got to kind of get forward a little bit especially while you're at home and you have that leg, and then just hold it out when you can. But that's kind of like my thought process. I did think they did look much improved in that second leg, and they actually kind of impressed me at moments at times. But obviously Canada's going to do what they're going to do. Canada, at the end of the day, they are the more talented team. It's who they are. I think they're going to be fighting for, a little precursor. I mean, we're going to get into more in March, but I think they're going to beat Mexico personally. But we'll see. We'll get there when the time gets there. But look, Canada, they did what they did. Jonathan David had another amazing game. They're putting out St. Clair out there to get him some reps to see. It looks like Jesse Marsh is having him kind of be like the future of Canada because Crepeau's getting up there in age. But that's kind of my thoughts on the series.
Yeah, dude, no, I agree with you. I think, Schaffel Baby, Schaffel Burger, Schaffel Babonk, whatever you guys want to call him, dude. Listen, I think he showed up. He showed out. He did his thing for Canada, man, and he looked good. He looked really good. And, I mean, he's like you said, Jonathan David. Obviously, Stefan Eustaquio took control of that. I agree with you, dude. That first leg, listen, man, they took the recliner and they parked it back. I mean, they didn't just pull the train out. They pulled the whole damn airport. They took a jet line. They bought Spirit Airlines and said, we're about to park this damn airport back.
Yeah, the guy I swear I saw somebody with an orange vest and the orange cones, just like.
Right. Hey, I will say, though, real quick before we move on to the next game on Honduras, Mexico, shout out to the Surinamians in the comments. I love the energy. I love you guys bringing it out. I will say, Julian and I, we're not haters of the national team. I think this moment was just a little too big, though, for you guys. I don't think this is something to take yourself down on and to say, you know what, we're just shit. No. And obviously, I don't think they think like that. Geraldo Becker, obviously, Vitij, Vassin, the goalkeeper, he kind of impressed me. Never heard of this guy before in my life. He looked, I got to say, dude, if it wasn't for Vassin in that first leg, Julian, it could have been 7-0. It could have been 5-0. Listen, dude was incredible. Dude was big. So I think Suriname's got a lot of good building points off of this. For Canada's sake, though, they took care of business. They did their job. I think Jesse Marsh had a little pump in there, a little pump in his step. So good for the Canadians. And like you said, we'll see what they can do with Mexico coming up in March. But next game, speaking of Mexico.
I was going to say something super quick with the Suriname fans. Yeah, and I think, too, like, they're going to continue to get dual nationals. Obviously, they have Suriname being a Dutch colony or former Dutch colony. There's a lot of dual nationals there, and I understand there's a lot of players that you guys are filtering through that system, kind of like how Jamaica is doing with England. So, if that can work out for you guys, except actually be better than Jamaica is, that's great. So, I mean, I think the future's up for Suriname. So don't take it as like we're hating on you guys. I just think you guys still got some cooking in the oven to do.
Yeah, and like you said, dude, it's a hard-ass Canada quarterfinals. It's tough. It's tough, man. And not a lot of teams can go into Toronto and BMO Field and to be quite honest, be down already 1-0 and go in and get the win. But speaking of their counterpartners who they're going to be playing in March in the semifinal, Mexico, Honduras. Julian, was this always going to be, listen, I saw a lot of Honduranians and shout out to our boys over at Cabra Centro. Gabriel even said it himself. This was already a game that was already won in San Pedro Sula for Mexico. The moment Vasco Aguirre took a beer can to the head. Listen, also, we want to shout out.
It's not
Real
passion.
Fans. Real Fans FC. We are completely against all of that, against hate, against violence. Listen, Julian and I, both of our countries just played each other, but you're not going to see violence. You're not going to see us get at it like that, things like that. So we completely, obviously, condone all of those types of actions and whatnot. But would you say that, Julian? Would you go as far as saying that game was already done? Mexico already had a hit list on them, and on their hit list was the Honduranian national team.
Yeah, I mean, look, karma's a bitch. It's kind of what it was. And the thing, too, is to do that, and quite honestly, it's not like Honduras looked great in that first leg. I mean, shout out to them for getting the win and getting the victory. Look, man, I'm beyond, like, from what I've seen personally and kind of going in there as a neutral, like, the only guy on that Honduras team that looks to have any sort of like ounce of quality is Luis Palma. Like that guy, he was in a different league of his own compared to his teammates. Like a lot of the things jump started through him. He created a lot of the chances. He was the one that was right there. But the one thing I did notice with this Honduranian team was like, they don't know how to make that final pass to their teammates. Like it feels like they're holding on to the ball. Like that dude thinks he's him, like he's Ronaldo, like he's Messi. And it ends up squandering the chances because there's a couple of chances in that first leg, and not even just the first leg, but the second leg in particular. They had like one pretty good transition where somebody hit a back heel and they were running downfield. And you had, I don't know who it was on the left side, but you had that pass there, and the guy just takes the shot one-on-one. And it just seems like the few chances that I saw Honduras get, it was kind of a lot of just rebounds and it just kind of bouncing their way instead of truly creating the chances and making it happen. So that's something that they need to work on. I mean, that's kind of like an issue and a lot of problems in Central American football is like learning how to have that quality to get that final pass. And that's, I like that Luis Palma guy. That guy's good. He's really good. And I hope he continues to progress in his career. And you can tell that he clearly is at a different level. But yeah, the moment that they threw that thing, I'm like, dude, that's terrible. Like you can't just sit there.
Yeah.
First off, it's just like, it's not passion. And sadly, them and El Salvador kind of and honestly Mexico too, they have a history of throwing shit. And it's like, dude, like, come on, man. Like
what I don't get, Julian, they won the game. They won the game. Like you won the game. Like, and I don't say this, I'm not advocating before, my bad, I cut you off a little bit before you finish, Julian. We are never advocating for it to say, oh, get out there and do this. And, listen, if a coach flicks you off, start going crazy, start throwing beer bottles and shit like that. I'm not saying that. But at the end of the day, like you won the damn game. Like you would think you would maybe, throw a couple crying emojis, throw a, like you smell, I don't know, just something else. Or I don't even care. Flick them off. Like at that case, but throwing a beer bottle, you won the game. Like, but continue, my bad, Julian, you were saying.
But yeah, then I want to go to the second leg. And that's where Mexico put
turned up.
Fucking beat down. Like it wasn't even dude, that game could have been like 7-0. If they were a little bit more clinical in that first half. There was like, man, I think right off the rip, Edson Alvarez almost hit like a banger. That was an incredible save by the Honduras goalkeeper. And honestly, the Honduras goalkeeper, he had a couple great saves. Him and Luis Palma were probably the best players on that Honduras team. And, but man, there was Mexico just looked so clinical. Their passing just looked so. It was just they were piecing them. And quite honestly, like even I've seen Mexico go against lower teams the past few years. The way they looked against Honduras was some of the best I've seen Mexican football in a minute. It's been a long time since I've seen them look that clean and that precise with their passing and their chips and their shots. Because I mean, they were a little unclinical in the beginning. Like there's a couple of shots they should have put away and they could have. But man, guys like Alexi Vegas and Raul Jimenez, that dude is just feeling himself right now. Raul Jimenez is feeling himself. He's feeling good. Dude. It seems like they're pretty confident. And quite honestly, I think this Canada-Mexico game, I still have Canada winning, but it's going to be pretty good. But it seems like Javier Aguirre kind of has something going. I mean, I would like to hear a little bit more from people who follow, the Mexican national team a little closer. But just for me looking on the outside, this game, they genuinely looked pretty good. And granted, it is Honduras. This isn't the toughest of teams, and they're down bad right now, but I've also seen Mexico look bad against Jamaica, and that's a team I feel like they should have looked better against. Or Venezuela, for example, in the Copa America. Like that's a team I feel like Mexico should be better than, and they just looked pretty rough during that game. So I don't know if it's Aguirre's system or what, but we'll see how it progresses and if they're going to continue the way that they look, because I will say it looked pretty rough in that first leg for Mexico. It just kind of looked like one of those grindy games. It's just hard for them to get anything going, similar to what we saw in Jamaica and USA, which we're going to get into in a second. It's just kind of playing away and not the greatest of fields, and things not really going your way and bounce. But, he shook up the lineup. And, man, also, too, I love that Toluca Stadium. I love how on top of the fans they kind of seem that you are. But, and then that second half of the second leg, man, they were just tearing it up. Then they started to hit all cylinders, and it was over. I mean, there was nothing Honduras could really do. Like I said, there was only one chance I can think of that they had.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with a lot of things he said. Hey, listen, dude, I can't even lie. It's going to be a bad day when Charlie Rodriguez, Luis Romo, and Jesus Gallardo are cooking on the field. If those three guys who the Mexican national team, media, the fans, and shit, I think even some of the players don't even like them called up, not even being played, but just called up on the roster in general. And all three of those guys are starting, and they're cooking. They're cooking quite well. Jesus Gallardo's got one chance that, if I'm not wrong, I want to say Raul Jimenez gave him the assist, or it might have been Edson, and it might have been Alex. I forgot who it was. Gallardo should have scored it, but listen.
I think it was Vega. It was Vega.
It was Vega, yeah.
The chip, or no, that was a Jorge Sanchez goal.
Well, that Sanchez scored it, but it was Gallardo in the first half, runs into the box. But anyways, dude, listen, those guys are clicking on all cylinders. Listen, I got to shout out Chiquete, man. A lot of guys hate on him. I know, obviously, our Chivas fan base here in the United States, they love him. They really think he's probably the next big, Sergio Ramos or whatever. But I got to give it to the guy. He showed up. He showed out. Gave a double birdie while he was in San Pedro Sula to all the fans while he's leaving the stadiums. He owned up to it, man, and I got to shout him out. But, yeah, dude, I agree with a lot of you said. I think this Mexican national team, I think they're really starting to finally kind of figure out more and more the Javier Aguirre system, this kind of old school Mexico. They ran the system with Chicharito and Guardado and Sanchez and Torrado, this kind of higher level, quick pace system, because that's the Mexican national team that we've always known.
That was definitely what I've noticed. It's just very quick passes, moving, one touch ball. Right. Like they were really getting it going.
One touch ball and pressing. Listen, in that first leg, Honduras was much more, and whether, dude, people are starting to call them the Bolivians of Central America. I don't believe that, only because, this is only 2
Guatemala.
wins now. Yeah, I was going to, exactly. So it's harder to say it, but listen, dude, I got to say Honduras completely, I don't even want to say a completely different team, but just like almost like they had a moxie with them in that first game, where it's like, we've done this before and we're going to do it again. And they have the number. They have Mexico's number in San Pedro Sula or at Tegucigalpa for their home stadiums. So, obviously that first game, you could already tell they already had that momentum. They had that swagger in these guys. They were ready to start rolling out the red carpet. And that second leg, dude, I talked about this, and some of our other colleagues, we've talked about this a little bit ourselves and whatnot amongst each other. Dude, what is Reynaldo Reda doing with fucking pulling off Luis Palma. Listen, injured, not injured, bring on Pinto, bring on somebody else. You take off Luis Palma and you put on Origama. I can't pronounce his last name. The dude plays in the 3rd division of the United States, not even the championship, in the USL League 1. Like, what the hell is this guy? What is he doing called up? Like, you couldn't find another guy.
The disrespect to the USL League 1, dude. Come on.
All due respect, like, a great, fun little league, but you don't deserve to be in the Concacaf Nation. This is why people look at our league and they might laugh at Concacaf, because of stuff like that. And all respect to Ronaldo Reda, yet again, he did the same thing. If you're going to park the bus, have a system to it. Don't just throw up Justin Arboleda and say, free fall it, go for it. I just think Honduras' game plan, like you said, Julian, was lacking. And I really don't think Ronaldo Reda was ready for the system. And these types of players don't play like that. These guys are not the park type of bus players. The majority of it, and you look at their lineup, the majority of these guys play in Olympia. Olympia is not known as parking the bus type of team. They're not that type of parking the bus mentality. And if you even go further than that, I mean, Luis Palma plays at Celtic, the Scottish Premiership. Come on, man. Like, they're not parking the bus against Dundee United, you know? So these guys don't already have that.
I mean,
yeah,
that Mexican team just has a lot more quality.
Yeah, and I get it, but it's just one of those, like, I get the idea, but when it comes to reality, it's just not going to work like that. And I think Mexico really stomped on him. I think, honestly, there was already vengeance in their eyes with what happened to their head coach, Vasco Aguirre, back in San Pedro Sula. So, honestly, big props to Mexico. Like you said, they showed up and they showed out. So I think it's something interesting we have to see. Obviously, it's still Honduras. Honduras is still a growing team. They're going through a lot of growing pains right now, and potentially might be losing Reda. I don't know. That's up for all those guys at Foot La Catrachos to decide for them and whatnot. So we'll see. But I want to move on, though. Julian, Jamaica, USA, talking about another game up here in the North American continent. You're wearing the jersey. Listen, dude, is Mauricio Pochettino, is this going to be the generation that is going to get them to a quarterfinal at the World Cup? Is this
okay? I don't know. I mean, everything's still kind of early, but one thing I will say for sure is that this team is worlds better under Pochettino than Berhalter. Yeah. Obviously, like, we look at the Jamaica game, that game's kind of hard to judge, but you know, the one thing, what all these U.S. soccer journalists always say is that, oh, it's tough away, you know, it's all this other stuff, but it's like, and we gave so many excuses to Berhalter why he can't win away, you know, it's hard losing at Trinidad, and it's like, you know, Poch went in here first game away in CONCACAF and he wins. Obviously, like, a serious game. Yeah. I mean, they lost to Mexico, but you know, it was a friendly. They had missing some starting players and stuff like that. But the field was atrocious over there, Independence Park. It was bad, but you know, they got it done. That game was a little bit more of a struggle. That I thought they could have been played better. I thought you figured out some guys who are actually pretty good, like Mark McKenzie. He looks like Poch likes him a lot, and he might be the mainstay at center back. We'll see what goes forward, and while other players get healthy. But yeah, I mean, the first leg, like I said, kind of a slog. I thought Jamaica continues to disappoint. They missed a couple chances. They were another one where it just felt like they couldn't get that final pass going. And I don't know. I expected a little bit more from Jamaica in that first leg. If they were more clinical, they could have tied the game, but it was kind of just like a tough match to watch in general. Now we get to the second leg. The USA I don't want to say they dominated, because there was times where Jamaica created some solid chances. They couldn't necessarily put it away. Then they finally kind of put it away when it's already kind of too late. They're already down by 3 goals, I believe, at the time when they scored their first one. But there were some moments where you're like, man, if Jamaica kind of put this, you're talking about a lot closer game here. But the one thing I will say with this whole Pochettino system is, like, these guys just look like they're playing a lot more like tactical quality ball. Because what we saw with Berhalter, and, you know, the biggest thing of Berhalter ball is, like, get Tim Weah into the corner and cross it in. And this time you actually started to see them really, obviously because the lack of wingers probably plays a part into it with the injuries, but you actually started to see them really build through the middle and play just more quality of building out of the back and through the middle and actually creating chances. I mean, we saw Ricardo Pepi, I thought, had a great game. And to me, he's the number 2 and for the USMNT, and quite honestly, who knows if he could keep it up and maybe get a transfer somewhere bigger or start starting consistently at PSV.
Yeah.
Maybe he takes it over Balogun. I don't know. We'll see when that time comes. I think there's I think Balogun's still the guy. But in general, just seeing like Pulisic be a little bit more free range, kind of going into the middle, being that chance creator, looking good. Like I felt like the team's just is starting to like actually play a little bit more quality ball and not just winning in spite of the coach being bad. You know what I mean? It seems like there's a little bit more of ideas and idea creation happening under this system. And, you know, like as a quasi USA fan, like obviously Costa Rica is my first love and stuff, but I always root for the USA. At the end of the day, it's my home country. But it's nice to see them actually kind of utilizing the talent that they have and actually using them to the best ability. And I think as Push starts to figure out these guys and understanding who he likes, who he dislikes, and kind of figuring out what works, it's just going to get better personally. Like you're starting to see him put his fingers and his DNA into this team because he needed that big shakeup, because after the mess that Berhalter did and making these guys feel comfortable and all this other stuff, I think Butch is a guy who's obviously had success in the Premier League and in Europe and stuff. He's like, no, you're not just going to get a free ride. Like, and I like that he's bringing in guys to like test for positions and seeing like who's actually going to be the guy. Like no more for sure starts for you, Gio Reyna. Like we're going to see what Tillman has, or Johnny Cardoso getting minutes, or Mark McKenzie now playing in the center back position. I would like to see him maybe put some pressure on Matt Turner and throw some Patrick Schulte action in there, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what I've thought is just, this was kind of like the early steps of like, I think USA becoming a better team, a quality team. Granted, like I said, this is Jamaica, so we have to take things into consideration. We'll see how they look against Panama, which I think is going to be a little bit more of a defensive, harder team to break down. And then when we get into the final, if they make it to the final, when they play either in Mexico or Canada, hypothetically. So yeah, I'm pretty high right now on the Pochettino ball. I think they look pretty damn good, and it's just, you know, it's a step in the right direction. You know, they got a away win, and they look pretty good, and they look different.
Yeah, dude, I agree. What the first word that comes to mind when you're describing this kind of new, not new generation, but this new era, new aura of the U.S. men's national team for me is free. I think they're playing freely now. I almost feel like I don't want to say they've broken the chains of Greg Berhalter and play like this, run here, run there. You don't run in a straight line. I'm taking you off. You know, it's no more of that. Even I think, if I'm not wrong, Timothy Weah came out after the post game and scored an absolute banger of a goal for the U.S. men's national team. He even said it himself. He was like, I feel like I'm playing more free now. I'm able to get out here and run around and get into certain positions and different places on the field, and not just have to play kind of this box to box. Because that's what it seemed like a lot with the U.S. men's national team. I remember in the Copa America when they played Panama, very, very box to box type players, and a lot of them play like that with their club teams, Johnny Cardoso and Tyler Adams and guys like that, but they're not all like that, even especially like Anthony Robinson and Des obviously didn't play in this fixture, but I think they're able to have more of a free aspect to them and just get out there and just run and just try to play with the ball and go and try to score. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do. And I think, speaking on Jamaica's behalf, not speaking on Jamaica's behalf, but speaking my thoughts on their national team, I think just two things. Yet again, one, they don't have a creator. They do not have somebody that can just create it. They don't have a midfield. They do not have a Casey Palmer. And that's not just creating, but it's also coming back and defending. I love Damian Lowe. I think he's a great guy, but I think he's a natural center back. And that's his natural position that he started out as. And I think trying to play him in that CDM role is just not the best, only because, whenever you play somebody in that back CDM role, you almost kind of have to have somebody in front of them. Playing two CDMs or almost kind of having him as like a third center back, in a ways, it's just almost kind of confusing more the Jamaican national team, and it's creating less options on the field for them. It seems like it. So, honestly, that's the big one. Also in Jamaica, you've got to put those chances away, dog. You have to score that penalty. Damari Gray, listen, shout out Matt Turner. Great save by Head Top Turner. Did his thing, dude. You have to score that penalty. You have to, dude. If you want any sort of hope, any sort of chance about going on, I mean, it's at your home stadium as well, dude. You got to put that in the back of the net. But yeah, dude, I agree. Jamaica is, listen, man, and all our Jamaicans out there, I love you guys. I said this on the last podcast. Listen, dog, I love me some jerk chicken. I'm all about going to Portmore one day. Dude, I will shout out my Jamaicans, man. I love Bob Marley and all that great stuff. Listen, I don't want to call you guys
stereotyping the hell out of them right now.
No. But dude, I really do. I love the Jamaican culture and I love the people and I love your national team. Yeah. I really do. But dude, you guys, you got to stop. Come on, man. This fraudulent alert, I have tried to defend them so often, and I've tried to make claims that they're not frauds, that it's just a team in growth, and they're trying to learn each other. But Stevie McLaren, man, get this shit together, dog. This is just
– it feels like the same.
It just feels like the same things. It's just coming out again. It's just nothing's changing. Nothing's changing. And like I said, dude, you can only defend this so long. You can only defend the undefendable for a while. So hopefully Jamaica can learn. Hopefully they can pick up the pieces. They're going to qualify for the Gold Cup, obviously, like, you know, with the rest of the other teams that with Costa Rica and Honduras and them. But we'll have to see. But yeah, no, I agree with you, man. The U.S. men's national team, I think they've got a strong steam away. Obviously, they're going to be facing my boys next in the semifinals. A little precursor to that. I am not looking forward to that. I think they've got vengeance in their eyes. I think it's going to be a tough game. I don't think Panama's scared. I'm not scared, but we know it's going to be a tough game. So we'll see. But speaking of Panama, last game, Julian, listen, man, I know you guys like to say you've been to 6 World Cups. You guys like to participate a lot. You're the highest competing Central American team in the region. Panama's beat you now 6 straight games in a row, 7 unbeaten. What do you have to say about that? How does it feel to yet again be defeated by us?
You know, it is what it is. You know, you continue to lose. I think it proves that you need a coach who can go. I'll kind of break down the 2 games. So I'll say the first one, to be honest with you, there's not really much to say about the first leg. It was kind of a boring game. It was kind of a slog. Like no team could really create anything or get anything going. The lone goal came from a pretty dumb penalty by Juan Pablo Vargas against, I believe, Concacaf in the box. It's just a dumb challenge. He passed him, and that kind of ultimately caused Panama to win the game. But I would say in general that not just the first leg, but both legs, man, that it was neck and neck. It was so close. Each team was on par with each other. And I will say this as a Costa Rican fan, that even though we lost the series, a part of me is not too upset about it because news just broke that we are not continuing with Claudio Vivas, that we are going to be on the look for a new coach, that he is not going to return. So a part of me is kind of happy because obviously if he would have won that series, he'd probably be sticking around and then therefore wasting more of our time. So I'm glad that now it's like, all right, it's time to move forward. Let's try to find a guy, get the coaching search right again, because we got it right the first time with Alfaro, but he decided to leave us high and dry. But in terms of the game, like I said, the first one was whatever, but then the second one, my gosh, like what a game, like incredible game, back and forth, chances made, chances missed. I mean, you had it all in this game. You had big defensive stops, you had mistakes, you had bangers, you had penalty kicks, you had set pieces, you had literally everything. Obviously, the big thing, at least coming out of Costa Rica, is like, why didn't Ugalde take the penalty kick? He's obviously your most clinical scorer. He plays in the Russia. He's been on fire. And then you put up a guy who is 18 years old, no experience really taking penalty kicks, and you have him take it. And it was a bad one at that. He clearly didn't have the experience to do it. And I just feel like even outside of him, there's like, you could have gave it to Alonso wasn't in there yet, but you could have gave it to Vargas, you could have gave it to Aguilera, you could have gave it to anybody outside of him. I just don't think he was ready for that moment yet. And clearly that's what happened. That when that happened, I was like, oh, the writing's on the wall. It's just, it's not in the cards. Like, you missed your penalty kick, you missed a couple of the chances. And then, because I believe like a few minutes after that, then Panama scores off that cross. I can't remember who scored it exactly. I don't know. Blackman scored it. Yeah, off the second bounce off the header. But in general, I think both teams had honestly, like, I think there's some tactical changes, at least from a Costa Rican side, that they could have been made that I didn't necessarily like that they did. I would have liked to see a little bit more, a little bit better subs, quite honestly, but it wasn't the worst in the world. It was much improved from the first game in terms of like the game plan going forward. But it just seemed like, man, Costa Rica just got so unlucky. He had the Alonso Martinez. He could have had a hat trick hypothetically, but it just didn't go his way. The first goal that got disallowed was just a super unlucky bounce that just grazed his arm. And then the second goal, which I still have yet to see, like how he was. I didn't see the offsides. I still haven't seen it. I would like to see it. But what makes me question the offsides is, but the only thing that makes me question it was that the fact that the Panamanians defenders didn't say anything about it. And that's what confused. That's what made me feel like it was like.
I think they were
usually
just
people
more,
are quick to.
Yeah, I think they were just more pissed off at each other. You know, the sense of, because think about, like you said,
scored at first.
Yeah, because that was the third goal in like the span of 10 minutes. You know, like you were saying. So I think, like, I even saw Copa about like it would have been, right. It would have been, but you know, that was still, regardless, in or not, count or not count, it was still the goal, the third one that went in the back of the net. So I think Copa about, like, there's literally a moment you can see when you guys are celebrating. He's like cussing out Edgardo Farinha. Like, dude, what the hell are you? You know what I mean? So I think I agree, you know, but my bad, I cut you off. You want to finish off what you're saying?
But yeah, I was just going to end it. Like, it seemed like, you know, it kind of ebbed and flowed. Like, it felt like Costa Rica had a little bit of momentum in the beginning. Then I would say after the first 15 minutes, Panama kind of took it over up until like maybe the 40th minute, where Costa Rica kind of like started holding possession and playing well. And then it kind of went back and forth. And then right at the end, obviously a boneheaded red card by Fidel Escobar to, like, what are you doing? That was just so dumb. Almost costed them the game, quite honestly, because it opened up even more for Costa Rica. And then Costa Rica had one more chance. Ariel Lassiter put like a beautiful cross right in the 6-yard box, and Anthony Contreras couldn't put it away. He just skies it over. But I know, like, Fahad, though, on your team, he missed a couple like just stupid chances, which I'm sorry, dude, that guy's terrible. He's just bad. I wouldn't even call him up no more. Like,
I love him. Well, yeah, I'll let you go ahead.
But no, in general, like, it's really good. It's, even though the Costa Rica loss, I think there's a lot of good things to take away from this. You have a team that has been much improved. You have more of an identity, because, you know, a lot of people pointing out last year, and the one thing I've been fighting against is like, hey, look, man, that team last year was like completely different. Like, it's not the same team. This team has now had a year to mature and figure out who's who and who's going to be the guy and who's going to be where. I think there's a little bit more of an identity of like, this is our national team. These are the players we're calling in, versus like that game, they're still trying to figure out who we're going to call in. Are you still going to call in some of these old guys, bring in some young guys? And I think now that you have idea of like, these are our best players, these are the guys we're going to play. They have experience with each other now. I mean, they have a whole year under their belt with each other, and they're still super young. There's still a couple more years to go of them figuring it out. And the fact that they put a good Panama team, at least in the region, to the brink, and quite honestly, maybe should have won the game if like they were just a little cleaner. You know what I mean? Put away your penalty, maybe not have a handball, watch the offsides, finish a couple, like the opportunities were there. But then, yeah, from a Panama side, I think what hurt you guys, especially in that later end of the game, was obviously Coco coming out, which in general, I didn't necessarily think he had the best of series. I saw he got the combined 11 for Nations League Quarterfinals, which I don't know. I mean, I don't think he was bad, but I don't think he was the best midfielder in the quarterfinals personally. But yeah, it just kind of seemed like both teams gave their chances. But it was one hell of a game. But I'll get your perspective on it.
Yeah, dude. No, it's like you said, real quick, kind of summing it up for
we don't
talking about. You guys got me now.
All right, we got you now.
Got y'all. Yeah, dude. No, honestly, just sum it up real quick. Like, you kind of, a lot of the points you said, Julian, dude. Just because it's fresh on my mind, I'm going to cover him real quick, dude. It's a love-hate relationship. He is like that super toxic ex-girlfriend. You just know that, oh my God, she's so awesome. She cooks for me. She's so sweet. She rubs your back. She does everything for you. You love her to death, but then she goes and cheats on you next weekend at a club, and down in Miami. It is the most toxic relationship with Fajardo. There's moments you just absolutely love him. And then there's just moments you're like, dude, I can't do this with him anymore. I really can't do this. He is just getting to the point where you just can't trust him anymore. So it really does suck. Obviously we have to see and kind of see, with the future with him, because he can be reliable. Obviously he was our top goal scorer at Copa America, but then he does shit like that. Literally in this game, it easily could have had a hat trick. You could have had him himself in that second leg, but unreliable, unclinical. Within Panama's perspective, though, biggest thing is we got to learn how to finish. We got to learn how to finish. We got to learn how to finish games, dude. We've been saying this for a while now. This is just getting to the point. Coto Cordoba, we are learning is now the absolute mural of our defense. He's stepping up and he's really showing out. He's doing his shit, so I'm proud of him. But Edgardo Farinha, Fidel Escobar, like you said, kind of a bonehead decision. Now, I looked at the replay a little bit. He had Farinha coming back on his right-hand side. So it's kind of like you don't have to make that decision and go out there and do that. But yeah, I agree. Listen, man, I think for Costa Rica, I think you guys are starting to grow a lot more. I think your team is generally starting to get back into the region as one of the top 5-6 teams. I still think that you guys are outside of that kind of top 4 out of that hex. Because now this is, if I'm not incorrect, well, no, Jamaica made last year's Nations League semifinals, but obviously the heavy 4 hitters are still, I believe, Canada, Mexico, USA, and Panama. But I think you guys are starting to kind of claw back into that and kind of, raise a hand again and say, hey, we're here. I know a lot of teams are sleeping on them, but no, I agree, dude. I think Warren Manfredo Galde and even Brandon Aguilera, who I'm not a personal fan favorite of. I think Brandon can be a little bit chippy at times, but dude, I got to say those are guys that you really need to rely on. And Patrick Sequeira, man, dude, all love to Kevin Chamorro.
He's good, dude.
He's good. He's good. And comparing him to last year's fixture against Kevin Chamorro, Kevin Chamorro literally looked like a wall, dude. Like he's throwing his hands. You know what I mean? He has no idea what's even going on. Like even some of those goals in that second leg were kind of like, Kevin, you should be stopping that. Like you should be doing way better than that. I think Sequeira is a lot more trustworthy in the back of the net for y'all. But no, I agree. I think Panama overall, we have a lot. Like I said, we have a lot we need to work on. I think this identity, and a lot of people are saying that we've hit the ceiling, we've hit tops, we've hit max. I don't think so yet. I think Panama still has a lot more to show. I know, and I got to take my cap off a little bit as a Panamanian national team supporter, but I think there's still a lot that this team possesses and they show. And it starts with getting off Anibal Godoy off the field. Love him to death. But like you said, taking Coco Carrasquilla, even though not even his best game, but that still shows the quality of level that this guy possesses. I don't even think he was the best midfielder for either leg. I think, honestly, Fulo Martinez was better in both games for us, but it still shows the importance of Coco Carrasquilla and the level that he brings to the game. He's a game changer. He's a complete game changer. He wins games for you. So I think him coming off the field for us just completely vital. And we need to start Eduardo Guerrero. We've been saying this for a while now, made a big move to Dinamo Kiev a couple months ago. It's time to get the kid playing. It's time to get him big minutes. He showed what he can do in the Copa America. So I think, and he brings a lot more, and he's younger, man. He's younger. He just brings a lot more to the table than Fajardo. I love Fajardo to death. I don't think we don't need to keep calling him up. I know many pundits in Panama are saying that, but dude, listen, and Julian, you even said it yourself, for you guys had so many missed opportunities. We had so many damn missed opportunities. This game could have been, I even called Julian right after the game. This game could have been 7-7. If you look at the total shot count, I think it was like 13-10. And then shots on targets like 7-4. Like there was just so many missed opportunities, and as much as we can blame the defense and talk about that, you have to get your guys up top working first. And I just don't think that was the best. I think Pumita looked great. Yoel Barcenas, he always does what he does. He can play all around the field. But no, I think Tomas, we have 3 to 4 months coming up till that Nations League semifinal, and we really need to get our shit straight. If we want to be this heavy hitter, and more than being a heavy hitter in Concacaf, Julian and I, we've really reiterated this a lot with our national teams. The goal is to qualify to the World Cup. And that's the truth. If you go down to San Salvador, or if you go to Tegucigalpa or Guatemala City or wherever it is, and you miss chances like that, you're not going to go to the World Cup. It's simple as that. There is no, coming back again. There's no second leg. It's right there in the moment. You don't get the 3 points. You're losing the 3 points, So I think at the end of the day, I think honestly, great game. We were talking about this earlier before the pod. High quality game. Very good game. Outside of the bigger national teams, listen, if I had no clue about CONCACAF ball, I could have potentially even thought this was a Canada USA type of game. Very high quality, good effort. The fan, dude. Listen, dude. Both of our fans, man. I was extremely, extremely extravagant to see a sold out Romel Fernandez, man. It was beautiful. It was energetic. Haven't seen that in a while, in the past couple of years. So it was beautiful to see that and to really see kind of this little rivalry brewing out in a new Super Classico, I guess we could say. Listen, Honduras is on the low right now, and Panama and Costa Rica, man, we're kind of carrying the reins for Central America right now. So
yeah, I mean, I talked about the last one where it's like, obviously the classic is like the Costa Rica Honduras, but I mean, the last time that's truly been competitive like that, it's been a long time. I mean, even in our down years, we've still been better than Honduras. Like, it hasn't been super competitive in a while, and it seems like. And even like from the fan perspective and the shit talking and stuff, like even the lead up to this game from both fan bases was like both teams wanted to win. Like, it wasn't like, oh, we want to win because we want to make the semifinals. It was like they wanted to win for bragging rights. Like, because like you said, you had the Costa Rica side. Well, like, oh, how many World Cups have you been to, Panama? And then you guys are like, well, we beat you guys 6 times in a row or whatever. So it's like the true like friendly animosity towards each other is something that like I haven't necessarily felt with Honduras like in a long time. Like, it's just been kind of like, and then quite honestly, I mean, we saw it in like the Copa America play, and like you can't even have that or we've even seen it with the Mexico game, the fans just throwing stuff or whatever. It's just like,
yeah.
But anyways, I mean, it might be, I mean, obviously you're going to have more years. This has to keep on going on for years for it to truly like kind of take that over the reign. But it's funny because you did answer a question that I was going to ask you, because, a lot of people are saying, did this Panama team peak? And I don't want to say they fully peaked, but I do think some changes have to be made. Like, I don't think you can roll out that same lineup. Yeah. Like you said, you have to figure out what you're going to do with the striker. You have to find somebody. Like, I don't think you can keep on rolling out Fajardo or like Ismael Diaz there.
Right.
Like, I think when it comes specifically to the attack and maybe another midfield position is like even like the idea of even bringing up somebody like Coco Kareskia's little brother. Like, start introducing some young talent, see what you have. You have to expose them at some point, because we all know, and I'm sure you know more than anybody, is that it's hard to break out from the Panamanian League and just make a jump somewhere else. Like so your true platform is the national team. So it's like, I would like to, and like, whether it be this Guerrero guy, like I said, not like a complete, like, all right, we got to blow it up, this is not going to work. But like, there needs to be some tweaking to improve it, because if you really want to compete with Canada, Mexico, and USA, I think Panama does need to make some tweaks, make some changes, specifically in the attack, but maybe potentially the defense as well. I don't know.
And I'll add real quick, just a last point, kind of like you were saying. I agree, Julian. I think the big thing with us is we're almost, listen, dude, Anibal Godoy, and I know I love him, dude. Listen, he's literally my wallpaper. Cecilia Waterman, I love him to death. He's my guy, and these guys will always be legends. I'm not going to criticize Anibal Godoy, Capi, and El Chechi, Cecilia Waterman, and say they're ass and they're garbage. No, I'm never going to say that. But you should leave the game before the game leaves you. And that's what worries me a little bit, is they're almost trying to hold on and try to get that last glimpse of hope and really fight for it, and even Quinterito, Nigretin, that we saw, Alberto Quintero, he moved to the Panamanian League, and still people and himself were saying, I should be called up. And, I think he's 36 now, and it's all due and all love for him, but it's like that time it's moving on, and you have these younger guys, and I'll say something, Julian, that I kind of want to see with us. Listen, dude, and I will say Panama, we're in a good position. We this is our third Nations League semifinal that we've qualified in a row. Yet again, we've qualified for obviously another Gold Cup. That happened. We made a Concacaf, or not Concacaf, we made a Copa America quarterfinals just a couple months ago. Listen, a lot of our guys play in high-level clubs. So if there's a moment to kind of a little peak transition, because like you said, I personally believe Thomas Christensen has peaked with his strategies and how he's as a coach, his tactics.
Yeah.
But I don't think this team has peaked, though. I don't think these players, certain individual players have peaked. I don't think Farinha, Cordova, even Murillo, and Murillo's 28 years old. I still believe there are certain guys in roles that have not peaked, or even Puma. But the thing is, and I think this is happening a little bit, you have to press these guys. You have to get them saying, hey, man, you got a young kid coming out of the Panamanian League who just made a move over to Colombia. You know, Kaiser Lainez, who I think is phenomenal, 22 years old, plays over at Juarez in the Colombian First Division and has played quite good. I want to say he's looking – his stats are 4 and 5 this season, 5 goals, 4 assists. Get him out on the field. Take off Yoel Barcenas and start him. Get the press on.
See what you got.
On these guys. See what you got and really get out there. And not only to be like, well, you know what, he could get a bigger call-up somewhere. Not only for that, but put some pressure on Yoel Barcenas. Make him work for that position. Don't get comfortable. Don't get lackadaisical.
It's like the USA squad.
Exactly. Or Mexico. And those are teams that you could kind of see almost kind of relied and said, oh, I'm comfortable. I'm good. You know, put the press on it. But listen, man, I think this was a good video. I think it was a great talk. Obviously, like you were talking about, semifinals are coming up. We're going to have a lot more content, a lot more stuff about that. So we're excited for it. And yeah, we're excited. We got international break coming up next March again. So we got a little bit of time, but we'll be talking Champions League ball and things like that upcoming. So
yeah, and then final announcement before we close out the video. I should have said this earlier, but for those of you who listen on audio platforms or want to listen on audio platforms, we have the link down in the description. So the Spotify profile and Apple Music profile has now been separated